1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. Okay. Was it all a dream? The bed suddenly swallows her up and 50 million gallons of blood spray up at the ceiling, like fucking Nightmare on Elm Street. She wakes up again. Rachel, I hate dreams inside dreams. She hears TV static. Hey, wait a minute. She gets out of bed and goes into the other room where Aiden is watching the last seconds of the Mika Mika Nurse video. Rachel, no! The Imogen Heap song starts playing. What you say? What you say? Rachel runs over in slow motion and grabs Aiden, all sobbing on him and everything, while he just sort of has a she must be on crack face. That's another thing. I have to take a little sip of Jim Beam every time it says she must be on. Every time it says something about somebody being on crack. Every time the words crack or coke come up, I'll be on the fucking floor. She grabs a tape out of the tape player and flings it across the room, under the couch, almost hitting Samara and ghostly Marty, who are hiding there. Record scratches. I like the idea, though, that, like, there's, like, so much stuff going on behind her back, like, right in the house, It's kind of like, I always love that fucking idea of, like, I know there's, like, some video game that came out recently in the last couple months or something, and it was about, like, it's called, I don't remember what it's called. Isn't it called Hide and Seek or something like that? I don't remember what it's called. But it's about, like, yeah, you realize that, like, the whole time you've been living in your house, there's another person living in your house, but just kind of, like, behind your back, I guess. Well, I don't know how the fuck, like, I mean, you must have a big house for that. Like, if you live in a small house, I mean, I guess they could be living inside the walls. Like, I guess that's the idea. And maybe there's, like, a secret panel, like, inside a closet. Like, this closet right here, like, we don't really use it. Like, there could be a panel, like, oh my god, and you know what? My family has been living in this house for like fucking 9 years or something like that at this point, and like my dad just pointed out to me the other day that there is a fucking attic. I didn't even know there was a fucking attic in this place. Like, I had no idea. And he's like, there's this little, okay, first of all, there's a little ass closet right here. It's a small closet. It's like a fucking broom closet, okay? And then there's like an upper shelf, like a top shelf to put like whatever you want up there, maybe cleaning supplies or some shit like that up there. And it's a small narrow closet. And then above the top shelf thingy, like there is a fucking attic door, like a door in the ceiling. And he was like, "Yeah, there's an attic up there. We never even opened the door like one time." And it's like, well, how are you going to? Because how is a grown human being, like, I'm kind of small, and it would be even hard for me to, like, I mean, if I had a ladder and I wasn't scared of spiders, like, I could probably, like, if I took everything off the top shelf that's in there, like, I could probably, like, weasel my way in like that. But you have to be small and skinny, and, like, your average grown adult is not going to be small enough to fit in there. And, like, it's just the weirdest fucking place for an attic door. Like, how hard are you making it to get into this place? And it's like, I mean, and it's like, forget about fucking, like, you know how in movies and shows and stuff, like, sometimes you see people, like, having like storage in it, like storing furniture, like fucking old beds and shit in the attic. Like, no fucking, that's not happening here, okay? I don't know how big the attic is. I don't know, like, but I mean, like, how are you supposed to store anything? Like, I mean, you know what? I think it's just and I can't even imagine, like, inside there, it's probably like, there's probably hella rats. There might even be raccoons, for all we fucking know. But probably not raccoons, because if it was raccoons, we'd probably hear them scratching, like, in the ceiling, like, at night. We never hear that. But there might be rats, and there's probably fucking dead animals, like mummified corpses of, like, animals that were just, like, went in there to die and were never found, and shit. And, like, fucking, like, there might even be bats in there, who fucking knows? And, like, but the most thing is, like, I think there would just be, like, so many daddy long legs. Like, it's dark, it's never been touched. Like, they would, oh my god, have you seen those videos where it's just like a huge blanket, like as big as this mat behind me or bigger, just a huge blanket of daddy long legs all like bunched together? Like, have you seen that shit? That's what it would be like in there, I'm pretty sure. Like, I mean, like, I can't even imagine what's in there. Like, I had this fucking story that maybe someday I'll read on this channel, I don't know, but it's not finished. But like most things that I do, it's not fucking finished. But basically, it's about this dude, like, okay, let me rewind a little bit. So basically, when I lived in Sacramento, I had this coworker slash friend, and he was also a writer. So we said we were going to write stories to each other, and I wrote a story to him, and he never wrote me back one. But the story I wrote to him was these two women, and basically these two women appeared in a bunch of stories I wrote, and it was about them and how they were actually, like, they're basically the bad guys of every story, but it's from their point of view. and it's like about time travel and shit, and they always run into somebody from the past. Like there was one time when, like, okay, the story I gave to him, it was about two Spanish conquistadors. I'm not sure if that's clear in the story. It's supposed to be vague and ambiguous. Like there's a chance, like, oh, maybe they're just two homeless guys, you know, whatever. But like, or maybe they're aliens from outer space. Like it's kind of supposed to be open to your interpretation. But in my mind, what I meant for it to be is that their time, because it's like, okay, basically these two women, they always run into time travelers and they always fuck with them or some shit like that. So like basically like, yeah, the first episode, that it was, well, actually the first episode technically is like them meeting a guy from the 60s who's kind of supposed to be kind of like an easy rider type or something like that. But basically, he was like fucking, you know, he was discriminated against and he was like beaten up, and then somebody handcuffed. Like, you know how when you're driving, like sometimes, like in the middle of nowhere, there'll just be like a fence that just goes for a really long time, but there's like nothing around. It's like fucking, there's nothing, like there's not even farms. It's just literally like nothing, you know? And like, it's just like dirt that hasn't been built on for like really long stretch of road, you know, and shit. And so, anyways, basically, somebody beat him up. Somebody basically kidnapped him, beat him up, and then handcuffed him to a fence, like in the middle of fucking nowhere, like just alongside of like a freeway or whatever. And I realized like that's kind of, it's so funny because like I realized that like I kind of use that trope a lot, like people either being abandoned on the side of freeways and having to like walk back, or like because it's so inhospitable. Like a freeway is like one of the most inhospitable places. Like if you're not in a car, you're fucked, you know? It's like being on the fucking moon without a helmet or something. Like you're fucked, you know? So that's like one of my like fears, I guess, that appears in my stories all the time, is like being abandoned out there, you know? Anyways, so he was handcuffed there, and then they get a call. It's supposed to be like, it's supposed to kind of mimic like as if they were like maybe paramedics or something. Like they get a call and they go out there, but they're really paranormal investigators. Like that's the deal. And they drive this van, and it has a mattress in the back, like this dirty bloody ass van. Like it's just left up to your imagination, like what they've been doing to people or whatever. Or maybe they just get hurt people and they just put them in there. But it's like, no, you're supposed to think like they're fucking with people, you know. Anyways, so that was the first one. They have that, and then there's also like this detention center where like they kind of send like all the sci-fi, like, or not sci-fi, all the time travelers get sent to this place because they're not supposed to be there. Like, you know what's funny? I wrote this before that show Loki came out. Like I said, I'm not a fan of the MCU or anything like that, but I feel like it's kind of like that place from Loki, like that jail where it's like if you fuck up the timeline, you get sent to this like cosmic jail or whatever. It's kind of like that, but it's way more like down to earth. Like it's not sci-fi magical or anything like that, except for the fact that everyone's a time traveler. Maybe, maybe not. It's up to you, you know, if you think they're really time travelers or if they're just weird people who are kind of like outcasted or whatever and being 5150 or whatever. So basically, it's up to you what you think, how sci-fi you want it to really be. But anyway, because it's like one of those things where it's like it could be all explained away without any sci-fi or magic, or you could go down that road. Like it's your choice, you know. But basically, yeah, they go out there, they capture these people who don't fit in, basically, because they're maybe not from here, maybe not, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. And anyway, so yeah, the first one, they get this guy Buck, and he's like tied to a fucking, he's handcuffed to the fence, and they like say they're gonna help him by like, she has bolt cutters in the back of her car, so she like cuts the handcuffs off him. But then instead of just letting him free, they like capture him and they take him to the detention center. That's more like a pilot because it's like really short. There's kind of like not even a story to it. It's just like whatever. And then the second one is the full on story, is the one I gave to my friend, the one about the two Spanish explorers. And they take them home, and she drugs them, or she drugs at least one of them and puts them in the bathtub. But anyways, and then after that, there was one where they meet a Alexander the Great, or like an Alexander the Great impersonator, basically. And you know how people say he was like a huge drunk and shit like that? Like basically they find him at a club and he's like all fucking like he drank like way too much. Then they take him in the van, they make him like throw up everything. And then there's another one I was working on where, oh, there's like two people named Mars and Venus, and they're vampires. And Mars basically got kidnapped by like this like CIA or CIA adjacent like shadow government type of fucking agency thing or whatever. And then Venus comes to her, and it's supposed to be kind of like a noir, like, you know that thing where the detective's like sitting in the in the fucking office, and then some like fucking hot chick comes in a red dress and shit like that, and she's just like, She has like her mink coat and shit, and she's just like, I need you to help me. Like it's supposed to be kind of like a parody of that. Not a parody because it's seriously told, but you know what, like kind of like a like mirror image of that, I guess, where it's like Venus, who's a man, comes to but he's just like there are two vampires and he's the more like stereotypically like feminine, like he's like like you know, feminine in the sense of like tarot cards, where he's like more like calm and peaceful and everything like that, and then Mars, who's the like the more aggressive one or whatever, you know. But yeah, Mars got captured, and then Venus comes to the two women, the paranormal investigators, and is like, "Oh, you gotta help me find my husband. Like he's missing." But actually, Venus knows he was captured because he was there when it happened, but he just couldn't stop it, and he ran away. And then he's like not telling the women as much as he knows, but he wants their help, you know, to get his husband back. And he's not telling them he's a vampire, but they can kind of tell, you know, anyways, whatever. And then there was another one that I was working on. I might finish this one where it was like, this is like another short one, but it's basically just like they get hired to do like a TV show because, okay, one of the women is I forgot to mention this, but one of the women is a video camera operator, you know? And she, like, every time they go out and they meet one of these people to capture them or whatever, she kind of, like, videotapes the whole thing. Because I always thought it was fucking creepy how, like, shows like Cops, this is before I saw that movie Nightcrawler and all that stuff, but I always thought it was creepy how shows like Cops or these, like, hospital shows, like, documentary ones where it's, like, actual real accidents and, like, they interview people at the hospital and the ER and, like, when they get put in cop cars and all this shit and like all this bad shit, but and it's just like, yeah, you're watching it and everything, but then you gotta think like somebody had to be there with a camera like in this person's face, you know, and shit like that. So like that's what she kind of represents and stuff like that. She's just kind of like, she's like a super stoner, she's always fucking blazed, and she's like always like hitting the bong in the car and shit like that. And like then yeah, she's just like a video recorder, and like she brings her like gear everywhere, and she like when they go capture somebody, she just like films it all, you know. And like then what else? Anyways, yeah, so they got hired to be in this like game. It's like kind of one of those like real life human fox hunt things where it's like one person plays a fox and then other people play like dogs and hunters, and they like hunt the fox and shit like that. And then but it's not exactly like that. It's basically like they're on the hunt for this guy. He's supposed to be like this like 1700s guy, like 1600s or 1700s guy. And basically it's kind of slightly, I guess, in the most minimal fucking sense of the way, inspired by, I saw this fucking boring ass movie called The Libertine, but it's just like it kind of made me think about like STDs, because that's the whole thing, is like the guy's like a huge slut, and in the end he dies from syphilis, because you know back then there was nothing for that and everything, and it just kind of makes me think about like, okay, like nowadays like there's this whole thing of like no slut shaming and everything like that, you know, and like people should have as much sex as they want all the time and nobody should care, blah blah blah, and all this stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, fine, that's fine in the modern age where we have condoms, pills, and all this medicine and everything like that, and it's basically like, unless you get fucking AIDS, like AIDS is kind of the only like or like one of, I think there's like AIDS, I guess you can get fucking uh I don't know, whatever. It just seems like in the modern age, like STDs are really not a big deal. Like AIDS is really like the only big one. And most STDs like gonorrhea, syphilis, and all that shit that you get from sex, like it's kind of like you can cure it, so people don't really give a fuck as much, you know. But I mean, like herpes, you know, people say you can never cure herpes. Like once you have it, you have it. But I don't think herpes will kill you, you know, or whatever. It's just like kind of makes you disgusting or whatever. But anyways, um, so back then in the day, back in the olden days, you know, like hundreds of years ago and stuff, then obviously it's like there was more reason to like be monogamous and not be a slut, and like it kind of makes more sense to me how like it was frowned upon, because it's like, yeah, you could literally die from being a slut, you know. And it's like it just kind of it kind of made me think about it differently. But I still don't recommend the movie because it's boring as fuck. Like, oh my god, one of the most boring movies I've ever seen. Like, I heard about it from Tom Ritchie's channel, and he said he fell asleep watching it, and it's like, yeah, I don't fucking blame you, because that shit was fucking boring. But anyways, it did make me think about unprotected sex, or just sex, like having random sex in general, like, you know, back in the olden days and stuff. And it kind of makes sense, like I said, how it was more frowned upon. So Anyways, the point is that in this, they get hired to be the film crew for this, like, or be part of the film crew of basically this, like, reality TV show kind of that's going on. And it's out in the woods, and it's kind of like, you know how in reality TV shows, they definitely, like, set up some things. Like, it's not all reality. Like, they obviously, like, make some things happen that they want to have happen, you know, and shit like that. So they're working with all these behind the scenes people to like make it kind of real but kind of manipulate it and stuff like that. And basically there's like this guy, the 1600s slash 1700s guy, whatever he's from. It's kind of not important. He's from the past, you know. And he's just kind of like this like sassy, like, kind of not pirate, but like, you know, he has that attitude like, like, what you gonna fucking do, you know, and stuff like that. And like they give him a head start to like just run out in the woods, you know, and stuff, and basically they're gonna go hunt him down. And like and whatchamacallit, and yeah, then they have him on they have like a video chat. Like he has like a, I don't know, a phone or something, not a phone, but like something that does video chat, but only does video chat, you know. And like so they can talk to him like that, but he can also hang up on them anytime, you know, shit like that. And he kind of just fucks with them, and then they fuck with him back, and they all chase him and hunt him and everything. And it's kind of like just this fun experience, but it's kind of like fucked up at the same time. Like, and then the whole deal is that like, yeah, if they don't catch him in the end, he's gonna like infect, like he's gonna be a carrier of disease basically. And so the whole idea is they're supposed to hunt him and I don't know, disinfect him or something like that. Like, it's kind of a fucked up story, but, you know, you gotta work with me here. Anyways, so what I was gonna say is that, let me just put this aside because I'm not gonna get to the rest of it. So yeah, the point is that the two women, they also have two roommates, two male roommates. One of them is a fucking resident in the hospital who was always bitching and complaining and moaning and shit. He's just like kind of this like constantly bitching guy who's always in a bad mood and stuff. But they're always coming to him for like science advice and shit. And then but there's also a big thing about how he's like never around, you know, and stuff like that. And then the other one is the videographer's boyfriend, and his name is Ace. And there was a spin-off story I did where Ace, basically, the two women, I can't remember what the fuck it was. They were doing some video, they got hired to do some video for somebody, but then like shoot a porno or something. But then like when they got there, the guy didn't want the video anymore, even though they had already done it, which is why you should always get paid at least half in advance or whatever. But anyways, he was supposed to pay them, and they were counting on this because they don't have like real jobs and shit. They were counting on him to pay them like $500 or some shit like that so that they could pay their rent. And then he was like, fuck that, I'm not paying, I don't want this anymore, like, whatever, I don't give a shit. And so he like wouldn't pay. And so they're like, well, we need like, you know, we need something, like, what can you give us? And then basically, instead of the video, because he didn't want it anymore, some shit happened to where they made a deal where they sold him her boyfriend. They sold him Ace. And Ace didn't know about it. Like, they just did it behind his back. And so they basically just, like, hoard him out. Like, this guy was running a farm and shit. And he's like, well, I could use somebody. They were kind of treating him like a dog or something. Like, he's like, well, I could use somebody to, like, just sit on the porch all night and watch my hen house because these fucking foxes keep coming in, like, fucking up my hen house. So, like, I need somebody to just watch the hen house all night while I'm sleeping. And, like, you know, so stop the fucking foxes from killing him and stuff. So they're like, okay, you can have my boyfriend for like the week or whatever. Like, we'll come back in a week and pick him up. You can just have him for now and give us money and stuff. So they made this deal. And then they went back to Ace. He was like in the car or whatever, and in the van. And they're like, here you go, Ace. Like, oh no, they didn't even tell him. They told him like, just go inside. And I can't remember. They told him to go inside and do something. And then when he was inside, they just fucking drove away. And they fucking left him there. And then he came outside and he's just like, where's my girlfriend? Where is my girlfriend? Like, where are my roommates? Like, where the fuck did they go? And then he kind of realized, like, they abandoned him. And then he got really sad and he was sitting on the porch crying. And then this other guy who, like, lived on the farm came up and he just, like, stop fucking crying and stuff. And then at night, Ace was sitting on the porch, And then, sure enough, the two fucking foxes, who were actually humans, came, and then they fucking went in the hen house, and it turned out they were just like these psychopaths who like they don't even want to eat the chickens, you know, they just go in there just to kill, just for fun, just for the fun of killing, you know, and stuff. And so he went in there and he like fuck, because he's like kind of a tough guy, like he's like a metalhead, but he's like kind of buff too, you know, and stuff. You know how some metalheads work out and shit like that, you know. So, anyways, he's like the muscle, you know, and stuff. So he goes in there and he like chases these guys out, and then the one who's the leader, his name is Grenadine, just runs off. He doesn't give a fuck about his partner. He took the car and he just like fucking peeled out and he like left. And then the other guy, Ruby, who's like the more like submissive one, you know, who like just takes orders and shit like that, and he's like more confused about life and doesn't know shit and everything like that, and he's just like down on his luck and just kind of like working for anybody that'll take a chance on him, you know, and stuff. Then he's like left behind and he's begging Ace like, don't kill me, don't kill me. Ace is like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. And then he's just like, I can't remember how, but basically in the end him and Ace wind up having sex because they go up into, I can't even remember why they got intimate and shit like that, but I guess Ace kind of felt bad for him or some shit like that. So he took Ruby inside, like behind the back of the other like farm dog guy, and then they went up to the fucking attic. And this is what I was getting at the whole time. They went up into the attic, and the whole entire fucking like the attic is like a room, right? Say like this is halfway up, like say this is like the lower half of the, like say the room, right? The room is a vessel. The lower half of the vessel is just like empty, but then the floor is like all fucking, because you know how like spiders, they shed their skin and stuff like that. The whole floor, because nobody has been in there for so long, is just like a blanket of fucking like dead like exoskeletons from spiders, like from years and years, and just like dust and nasty like shit like that, and like cobwebs and shit. Then the whole upper part of the room, like the entire room, right, is like all spider webs, and it's just like this huge like blanket of like spiders, like daddy long legs just hanging in there, and it's just like thousands and thousands like in there because nobody has been in this attic for like probably for like generations, you know, and shit like that. And they go up in there and they're like crawling on their hands and knees because they're trying to be secret because they don't want to get caught. And then they fucking like lay down um the fucking all the fucking exoskeletons, all the nasty shit that's on the floor. They fucking lay down in it and they start like making out and they start fucking. And I don't remember why. This just kind of happened, you know. And then they, I guess because Ace, he just felt so betrayed, and Ruby's like a psycho case, so they just don't even, you know, it's just their emotions going crazy. And then they start making out, they start fucking and everything like that. And then fucking like the whole spider, like the whole spiders above them, like they're on their knees trying to avoid, like trying to not stand up, because if they stand up, the spiders will be like, they'll be in the spiders like from here to here, you know. But then anyways, whatever, then they're fucking disturbs the spiders, and the whole fucking, all the daddy long legs come just raining down on them like fucking like snow. And they have to fuck with all these spiders like all over them, just like crawling everywhere, and their nerves are just like tweaking out. Yeah. So anyways, that's the story. Yeah.